primary ignition.
This is Star Wars.
Look out!
Core World News.
You may fire when ready.
From the bright center of the galaxy, I'm Grace Kondak, and you're listening to Core World News, your whole-net news service providing in-depth coverage for the latest stories for every sector of the galaxy. Now for your news segment rundown for March 12th, 2023. Fistful of Beskar. 99 problems, but a bad batch ain't one. We now go live to the CW newsroom to join your host, Ben Granted Adam, for the review of Chapter 18, The Mandalorian.
All right, thank you very, very much, Grex Kondak, and welcome to another week of Core World News, a live podcast that posts on Monday mornings or Sunday nights.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I hear it's a great show.
Yeah, it's a great show all around. Y'all like Star Wars? So do we. And what a week we had if you are a hardcore Star Wars fan. Holy shnikey bags.
It was ripe like Bunta Eve this week.
Yeah. Hey, guys, remember we spent the last episode laying out exactly what was going to happen in the rest of Season 3 of The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
They are not going to get to Mandalore until the very end of the season. Wow.
Absolutely not. They're definitely going to go fix, what's his name, IG-11, because
IG-11.
he would never just get another thing. Like, they just head faked us so hard in that first episode.
I love it when they do it. I love it so much. Whenever I'm wrong with my predictions for Star Wars, like 99 times out of 100, I'm very happy that I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like
I
comedy.
think I talked about bioluminescence for like 9 minutes last podcast, and I also thought it was going to be a joint bathing of both Grogu and Mando, but no, just Mando and Bo. Bo jumps into it, so
that's a good point. I knew
cool.
she jumped in, but I didn't even think about the significance of that.
Yeah, right, and we'll get into that. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
That interpretation is going to be really important in this pod, so can't wait to get there.
So do you want to start somewhere? Obviously, we're going to start with Mandalore episode 2. Do you have a summary there, Grant?
A summary. So season 3, chapter 18, The Mines of Mandalore. After purchasing R5-D4 from Peli, Din and Grogu travel to Mandalore to explore the mines below and locate the living waters therein. After an air sample readout from R5 shows the atmosphere is breathable, Din and Grogu leave the jagged glass surface of Mandalore and descend down to the abandoned Sundari Civic Center and cave systems below. While exploring the long abandoned passages and walkways, now filled with Alamite ambush parties and winged reptiles, Din is suddenly ensnared in the metal underbelly of an insect-like mech, driven by a ghoulish, one-eyed cyborg reminiscent of General Grievous. Using the Force, Grogu attempts to open the cage holding Din, but causes a loud noise, drawing the aggravated gaze of the Cyclopean cyborg. Grogu narrowly escapes and flees back to the surface, boards the ship, and travels to the nearby world of Kalevala to alert Bo of Din's capture. Bo-Katan and Grogu return to the mines of Mandalore, and using the Darksaber, Bo is able to dispatch the cyborg and rescue Din. Seeing Din is still determined to bathe in the living waters after his painful encounter, Bo leads him to the entrance of the old Beskar mines and pool of living waters just beyond. As Din wades into the water and begins to recite the creed, he suddenly plummets below the surface and falls hundreds of feet toward the murky bottom. Bo immediately jumps in after him and uses her jetpack to lift him to safety. As they rocket back to the surface, Bo glimpses a creature of legend and symbol of her people, the fabled Mythosaur. The end.
Unbelievable. Nice summary there.
Great job.
Thanks, guys. So Mythosaur, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I spilled my coffee all over myself when I saw that. I basically I just juggled it in my hands and just spilled all over my leg, and I was like, what did I just witness?
It was so weird because, Carly's not in on a lot of the like lore, deep lore. So she was like asking about the Mythosaur, and we were having a conversation about what a Mythosaur is and all that. And then I'm like, oh, and I'm like, just wait a second, just watch.
By.
I guess we're gonna see it. Yeah,
stand by. Yeah, I mean they have been dropping hints.
We do kind of have hints of what it is in the show already for those who are uninitiated with like the lore of the Mandalorians, things like that. I mean, the armor says, I think in season 2, songs of eons past told of the Mythosaur rising up to herald a new age of Mandalore. So we have had it mentioned in the show before. I just don't think people have equated the silhouette with design to that creature. Yeah.
And she was just more interested in like what was it in old EU? Like I'm usually the old EU whisperer for the stuff, and I'm like, well, and then it's like 5 minutes later, and then the Mythosaur. I'm like, oh, we missed the Mythosaur because I was going on about Boba Fett.
Yeah, so there's the Mythosaur is integral to the legend of Mandalore, right? It's something about like taming the Mythosaur, and we heard Boba Fett say is like, oh, it's no problem like riding a Rancor because we used to ride the giant mythosaur.
Yeah.
Also, episode 17 or chapter 17, I think they call it. So the first episode of the season, it starts on the mythosaur skull behind the armor. Like, of all the stuff she carries with her, she always takes her like mythosaur skull with her.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then they talked about how it's a symbol of their people and all that, over and over. And then she drops in like, yes, the mythosaur used to nest here actually, and all that. And you're like,
What's
okay,
the deal
here
with
it
her
comes.
clan? Does she have a clan? Is that her signet, the mythosaur? Like, I'm just.
Who's that? Bo-Katan or the armor?
The armor. The armor. Is that her signet, the mythosaur? Or have we seen another?
I don't know. I think she's a Maldalorian, and like So that's. I mean, she's obviously what is it? Death Watch or no?
See, I'm starting to
Children of the
drift
Watch.
from that.
Children of the Watch.
That view.
Yeah.
I don't know if that perspective holds up for me anymore. I feel like the Children of the Watch are simply they've kind of retreated into the creed after the cataclysm, right? It's like almost like a traumatic reaction to the cataclysm. It's like, oh, let's go back to the oldest of the codes that we used to follow, and hopefully that in that we can keep our people alive. We can survive.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to have fractured all the clans, so it's like there's still like a clan system, but I think the armorer is, like you said, retreating into the old code, the old ways, and using that as the main flag there. And it looks like she's collected people from multiple clans.
Yeah.
In her covert.
Yeah. Do you want me to? So I got a couple of pieces of kind of trivia that may point it towards Death Watch. So this is gonna get real trivial for a second. In the French version of The Mandalorian, Death Watch is translated as, I'm not even gonna try to do it, but the translation is the heirs of the Death Watch. So that's the French translation.
Yeah. Right, Children of the Watch, right?
The children, but the heirs kind of, again, suggest a connection as well. And then the other point is that, remember, he was rescued. Din was rescued by members of the Death Watch.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So both those kind of put together, I think we are looking at a pretty clear or a pretty close connection between the
and
two.
he mentions he was raised on Concordia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Death Watch had their home.
More like the Concordian, am I right?
Oh gosh, golly.
Anyways, no, I don't think there's any like argument that they're not part of Death Watch. I think they are the descendants of Death Watch. I just think that the creed seems pretty old.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
like,
yeah.
Like, they say that the Mandalorians go back like 10,000 years. The creed does, and Tarvizsla constructed the Darksaber like 1,000 years ago. The creed is old. Like, this isn't old.
Yeah, it's just they interpret it differently than the other.
Right, and that's what's the most interesting, I think, is the different interpretations.
Yeah. And I love how they're sort of just giving bits and pieces of Mandalorian lore as the season goes on. We get a little more each time, and so I think it'll continue to be fleshed out with the history, what's happened since then. I mean, they talked about, there's the plaque that we see in the pools, and she reads it and she talks about how it was just like sort of this vestigal, ceremony, and it didn't really mean much, and but it's always been there, and so it's sort of like that's a really important thing where it's like, yes, the tenets of the Mandalore have always been there, but as the Mandalorians evolved and they became a peaceful nation, it became sort of like, okay, a little more symbolic during times, but it was always there. I thought that was really cool.
And I think they're doing a really good job of not, coming out and saying who's right and who's wrong in this. And I appreciate that type of storytelling where I tend to lean more towards Bo-Katan's viewpoint. And that's just personal, right? But at the same time, when you watch Din Djarin bathing himself in the waters, it's hard not to be moved by that moment and seeing the connection there, right? And feeling that. And I think that's such an important moment because all you hear is the armorer, and it's hard not to side against her, but watching how important it is to him, you kind of start to feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think my favorite moment in the show is when Bo-Katan tells him, my father gave his life defending Mandalore, and he just stops dead in his tracks and says, this is the way. And I mean, it maybe it's more of that culty stuff where she sort of looks at him like, are you still into all that like culty stuff? But she seems affected by that. She's like, someone actually gets it. And he's like, that's the deepest honor a Mandalorian can achieve.
Yeah. It was a nice moment of connection between two people who interpret their religion differently.
I think a lot of people interpret Bo as this sort of like icon of sort of free thought individualism and outside the creed. And I have a completely different read. I feel like, in actually Boba Fett, when the armor is going into the Darksaber, and, if someone wins the Darksaber, an unworthy person gets the Darksaber, and then they'll be cursed, and the Mandalorians will scatter to the four winds. I think that's literally what I think. Bo thinks she's cursed.
Yeah.
I think that is the read I have of that character. Whereas a lot of people are reading her as the skeptic of the creed. She doesn't wear a helmet, all stuff. I think she's like, I can't believe this creed because if it's true, I'm cursed.
Yeah,
and I think
I
haven't heard that
I
anywhere. And I
broke
feel
it
like
for
that's,
everyone.
That's so major, and I think that's like what she's thinking about all the time. And almost everything she says is like a rhetorical sort of question. Like she's almost talking to herself when she's talking to Din a lot of the time. And I think she's fascinating. And I also think it's so cool to see that she's pro Jedi, and sort of the armor has these kind of wary of the Jedi. It's fascinating to see the two different dichotomy there between the armor and Bo specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good point, Grant. Because, I mean, that's my headcanon. If you watched that fantastic episode in Book of Boba Fett, and she's talking about them cursing, you're like, well, that makes sense if you've watched Rebels and Clone Wars. That's exactly what happened to Bo-Katan. She did not win the Darksaber in battle, and ultimately Mandalore got glassed and scattered all of the tribes. So, really cool stuff, man. Really cool. Love what they're doing.
I have to think she's going to win it back. I have to think this is a major arc for her to
clearly knows what she's doing with that thing.
I was going to say, it's hard not to watching her wield that thing, not to root for her, right?
But she's going to do that thing where she's like, there's something I got to tell you about Din. Like when we were down there, like I saw the Mythosaur, it was because I went down there to get you. She's going to associate the Mythosaur with him, but like, maybe she was meant to see. I personally think that she was meant to see it. I think this is part of her redemption. And this sort of like, she's not seeking to bathe in the waters, but like we talked about, she bathes in the waters, essentially.
So I think you're 100% right. And I think one of the things we might be getting is a bit of a fake out where, the name of the show is The Mandalorian. We haven't said which Mandalorian the show is about. Like, we may actually be watching Bo-Katan's story. And what we're getting is, I think, what Favreau's doing is, he's doing hero's journeys within hero's journeys within hero's journeys. And now we're in the midst of Bo-Katan's refusal of the call, right? While we're in the midst of Din Djarin's, I have to look back at my notes, but he's further along in his path, right? It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But there's some Jedi spice that's like poured into that mixture too.
Grogu's standing right there.
Right?
Yeah. And I feel like
good point.
in the armor in that same Book of Boba Fett episode, Chapter 5 of Book of Boba Fett, she says, Tar Vizsla was a Mandalorian and a Jedi. Yeah. That's well noted.
Yeah.
And the armor is sort of pushing Din to bring Grogu back to the Jedi, to interact with the Jedi. Is the armor trying to craft this Mandalore 2.0? Like, is she trying to incite this new Mandalore and build this story, this narrative that follows the creed for this character? But it's really Bo-Katan is actually like the Mandalore, or should be the Mandalore, and it's all a misinterpretation. It's all interpretation, and that's what's so fascinating about the show.
Yeah. But I mean, I wonder, if the curse is real, maybe it can't be Bo-Katan. She her actions may have brought about what ultimately brings back the Mandalore. But I don't know that she can do it. I mean, that would be, they would have to set up a very intense battle between Din and Bo-Katan, or someone else, if someone else beats Din.
We get a close-up of Paz Vizsla in that same chapter 5 where Mando first shows the Darksaber off to the armor, and we see a nice just shot of him staring at it. Obviously he makes a claim for it, or fights Mando in that episode, whatever, but I could see that rearing its ugly head again later, given that if you go watch Clone Wars, there's so much Vizsla with the Darksaber that it's like, wouldn't he again, maybe when Mando's wounded, he's like, I'm gonna get it, and then Bo can take him out in a real fight, real fight.
Yep.
And get it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So my view, we should probably talk about where this is all headed now. I'm thinking that they are going to use the existence of the Mandalore to rally other Mandalorians. And I don't know to what end. Are they going to go to the armor? Like, it would make sense. They'd be like, yo. Well, they have to go to the armor, right? Because Din Djarin wants to reinstate himself as a Mandalorian, and apparently the only person that can bestow that upon him is the armorer. So I think they're going to rally some folks, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're rallying all the Mandalorians they know, if they tapped Boba Fett on the shoulder as well and tried to bring him into this. And I think that could be. I just want to see Boba Fett again because, like, nerdy, like, fan, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that could be a thing.
Yeah. He does have the Mythosaur signet on his shoulder or whatever.
Sure does.
I still think we're gonna get a Boba Fett episode in the middle of our Mandalorian season. I feel like they're trading him off now.
I do too, and with our track record, we absolutely won't.
Absolutely, yeah, no way.
It's not gonna happen.
Nope.
Should we dumb this down a little bit and just go through some of the beats of the episode and talk about?
Yeah, because there's a lot of other, like, I think it's so funny. I think we flipped what we normally do, which is go through it and then talk like heavy stuff. But like this is the heavy episode, so I'm glad we started that way. So
I think it called for it.
Yeah, I agree.
An episode that ends in the Mythosaur, we got to dive into the myth. You know, it's only right.
Also, episode 2 of the season, guys. Like episode 2, we saw Mythosaur already.
Yeah,
it's wild.
It's wild. Yeah, I mean, do you want to start us off there? Yeah, there's so many things.
I want to go right to Pelly's Chop Shop. I want to like get into it.
Okay, where she's just hustling some Rodian, just like straight hustling him.
Yeah, that Rodian's incredible. By the way, some of the reacts from that Rodian are amazing. Like, when he first hears how long it's going to take for her to work up the speeder, it's like might be one of the best sort of alien reacts in all of Star Wars. Like I love it.
It's great.
So good. All her lines are just bangers in that scene. Like she is just like everything she says is incredible.
Yeah.
No chance cubes.
Yeah.
Still purring like a Nezzle shrew.
Yeah.
I was like, how can we describe the sound effects behind the N1? I'm like,
she's great.
That's about right.
I will say, full honesty, having known how much I love this episode, man, when this episode started, I was arms crossed, harumphing about it. Because I'm like, first of all, I'm like,
Tatooine will do that to you.
Tatooine again, and then we'll talk about the whole R5 thing. I just want to hit my reaction first. This felt to me of like, please make the universe bigger, not smaller.
Yeah,
like it felt like almost the wrong type of fan servicey, but the way they utilized him and everything else, I was fine. Like I will say, this episode, I love this episode, but it started off the fact that I was so high on it at the very end with how I started is really shows how strong this episode was.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of constrained by Din Djarin's external network, and we're constrained by just what we've seen so far. I've been watching a lot of Linda Hill classes here, Grant. That's for you. But the strength of the external network, he only knows a few people.
Collective genius.
Yeah, he's always been a lone wolf, so now he's like, okay, he's starting to have, allies, but they're few and far between. It's Greef Karga, Boba Fett, and Peli Motto, and like that's kind of it. And Cara Dune,
He's like a boomer looking for a bare bones phone in like the age of smartphones. Yeah. Like it is the beginning of this episode where he's like, I need this part for an IG unit. She's like, whoa, like they don't make that anymore, and why?
Yeah.
He's just like, and then obviously he gets R5, and like that was. I thought that was. It's interesting that it's like it does feel like a little bit too much fan service in that it's like that's such a prominent droid in New Hope. Yeah. Like major story beat in A New Hope involves R5. I was actually charmed by it. I actually thought it was like a beautiful sort of like almost like from a certain point of view, sort of which we're getting a new.
Well, he finally gets his adventure that he missed out on.
Which I can't wait.
It
just felt like a fun little, from a certain point of view, story with R5 with Mando, and it just felt small enough to work for me. Yeah. If it was any crazier, like he did some R2 level stuff and hacked through security systems or whatever, like that would be a lot.
Yeah. I don't know if it felt like this way to you, but I think they were trying to do like in A New Hope, his like exploding unit was like a refusal of the call. Like he can just do that on command because he did it again here. And then she's like, nope, not that easy, buddy. Get in there. And he's like, okay. He's just like kind of a coward. And we know from a certain point of view, we get R5's POV, and he says he did it for a very noble, virtuous reason. But it was like, maybe he's just a coward in here. And I'm like, I'm okay with that sort of, retcon.
This is why this podcast is important to me, because you all won me over on this. Now I love it.
Well, it's fun. It's not too much.
I did like that they did stay true to his character.
Yeah. Another note, and so we're doing this on Sunday, right? So everyone's been talking about this for like 4 or 5 days. This is our Sunday matinee, but someone mentioned like you have a BB unit right there, like a literal droid that's like created for adventure. the BB.
Oh, the BD.
BD,
Yeah, the
sorry,
one-
BD
yeah, yeah.
unit.
Yeah.
Like right there. This is the unit that Cal Kestis
Right.
uses.
Oh yeah,
in-
I know. It could like ride on Mando's like shoulder as he
Oh.
explores the cave. Like yeah,
They
it's-
could have
Yep.
done that, and she was like, but I think it's more Pelimoto being like, "You're not getting my good droid."
No, she has no use for
sure.
R5.
Yeah, poor R5. But yeah, I thought it was great to see him get his hero moment in there. It was really fun. I mean, it blew me away too. Absolutely not expecting that. Like I thought he
No,
was just
no.
window dressing, and it was like, ha ha ha, that's R5 in the background.
Yeah.
But then it's like he gets thrust into the adventure. Love it.
So that's the question. Do you think we're just not gonna get IG-11? Do you think that storyline's dead?
That would be hilarious.
I think there's enough setup that he
Yeah.
almost has to come back. But
Yeah.
why do all that and not have him
Right?
come back?
And it sounds like he wanted them also for protection, right? For Grogu.
Yeah.
So yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll
see.
We'll see.
And speaking of Grogu heavy episode and like just heart melting cooing and trilling throughout the entire episode, like just wonderful sound effects.
Yeah, his noises I think are even better than talking. There's you know, again, people like sort of being like, do you want Grogu to talk? Does he talk now? Like, what does it happen? But I think it's kind of more fun just hearing his little noises. They're kind of cute.
Mm-hmm.
So many fun little noises in this episode, and then he does. Awesome. I don't think does he say Pelly in the beginning? Because I listened back a couple times. It does not sound like Pelly.
No, it's like
just the noise.
Yeah. But again, as a relatively recent parent, he is definitely getting closer to talking, right? Like the noises are becoming more, and so I'm still calling it Grogu's first words this season.
Yeah.
Din is pretty close to Dad. I wonder if he's just going to say Din.
Yeah, Din. That's a good one. That totally could work. Yeah.
Short word.
That would be pretty cute. Yeah, just like a word here and there. That would be pretty amazing. Because he's doing the things. Like he understands what's going on, right? He was able to navigate, and I mean they talk about it at the beginning of the episode. You need to learn how to navigate, and so there he does. He navigates for Bo-Katan to get to the right place, and he navigates for R5. He's like, "Take me there," but just like pointing, which is like a meme already.
Yeah, I was about to say, mutable moment is probably the point. Yeah. That's definitely we go there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's super fun.
A lot of navigational setup with Grogu.
Yeah.
And we know there's a lot of force navigators in the books and things like that. I wonder, and we saw Purgles earlier. I wonder if that's something
interesting. Yeah.
And we've got Ezra and Thrawn possibly coming up in the mix. So that's all really, really cool stuff. And I mean, I guess we're now at the caves. Now we're going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We got our first sort of antagonist with the Alamites, which again, very memeable. People are finding a lot of examples of cave-dwelling monsters from previous media, which is sort of funny. But I thought, that's what made them great and realistic. 4 eyes and tusks, and I thought they looked really cool.
The eyes were kind of greenish, like the actual glass on the surface. I wonder if there's some sort of biological.
Well, they're endemic to Mandalore. They're from there, but they had always been sort of like held out by the cities and walls.
I wonder if they've adapted to the new environment or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very cool design, practical, which I really respect and love. That first fight scene and the bow fight scene, and I thought those were both fun. Love the shot of Mando just pushing that last Alamite off the edge and just plummets down the city.
Yes, yeah,
that's amazing. That stuff was great. Grogu making some incredible noises as they're exploring the caves. But now we got our guy. We got probably one of the greatest horror characters of all time.
Yeah. This is my favorite monster I've seen in The Mandalorian for sure. It really ranks like maybe top 5 in all of Star Wars. I am in love with this dude.
Yeah, the design's incredible.
Yeah,
this character.
Didn't see this one coming at all. Really creative, really inventive, so fun.
Straight up horror.
Yeah. The eye.
I love his layer too. Like, He also just seemed like a free. The one thing there was, I mean, there's really no nits I want to pick here, but it's like there's the one moment where he does just like take Din's blaster and takes the Darksaber and throws it on the ground. I feel like it could have been fun if he held the Darksaber for a minute and like just, made a few remarks in whatever language he's speaking and then sort of like put it aside or something. He's been there long enough and he seems like he's got a pretty high IQ given like all the mechanical contraptions around him. Like, wouldn't he know maybe wouldn't it know what it's dealing with here, what the Darksaber is or anything like that? I don't know.
This is one of the examples I think of them making the galaxy bigger. Because it's just like, well, this place is totally fallen to Pudu, right? This planet, and it's like it just like, well, and now there's this thing. What even is this? Like, it's just overrun with dangers. And I love it. You know, there's the Reptavian creatures that are like sort of attacking from the walls. They're like reptile bird things,
Right.
And you know, and it just made it feel bigger. So, you know, maybe it's just someone who just scrapper and just like found a place to get some stuff. I don't know. Maybe he's doing something with a Beskar. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I just thought it'd be a fun eye widening moment for that guy. Literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it would have been funny to have just kind of a look at it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a curio
I
of
thought
some
that one
type.
shot was maybe
Yeah.
missing. That was it. I was like, is that missing? Like, I think it might be.
I mean,
like it could have created some.
I don't want to trigger any of our listeners, but you could have a callback from to episode 8 where he looks at it for a second and then just throws it over his shoulder.
Yeah.
What's this piece of
It could be
junk?
a fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Luke throws the
Yeah.
saber on his shoulder.
I know. Or I mean, obviously there was some Grievous homage there. He could be like, another one for my collection, but it like didn't even have to say it in like basic English. He could just have been like, and like throw it next to a bunch of lightsabers.
Exactly.
And what's interesting on Wikipedia, I'm not finding
I'm not finding a name for it.
anything. No,
Yeah.
even like they're not even putting it under like sentient beings, anything. Like there's no name. That's the other thing that's fascinating is to get this far. Like we're almost a week out, and it's still just not named. It's nothing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love
we
that.
never
It's
see
just
the outline of
terror
the
of a
body
creature.
of the little critter in the mechanical helmet or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it could
never
just
see
be a
that
brain and an eye is like all that's left.
Yeah,
of that
just
guy.
give us
Yeah.
his spin-off show. That's all I want. I just want an hour
Yes,
of this
his
guy
spin-off
doing his
character.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's he been collecting down there? What's he been doing? How much plasma has he harvested? I guess he has to live in the plasma instead of the blood, so he has to harvest that. Yeah, scary, spooky guy. But cool to see Bo. Awesome when Grogu tries to get Din out, and then Grogu has to escape, and he does the whole like jump down the fire escape into your car and drive away from the coppers or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but they somehow animate that in this wonderful little bat.
It's just
Sequence.
they're doing such a good job of like going from like how like fragile he seemed in season 1, right? And just this, and now just like you said, fully competent, like understands, may not be able to communicate yet, but like getting a lesson and then being able to put it into action. Yeah,
that was great stuff. Then we got the escape from the planet, pointing to the star map. Gets to Kalevala, warns Bo. That scene was kind of strange to me, given that like Bo doesn't see anyone in the N1 and is just like shouting at nothing, and then like the Grogu pops up, and I'm like
I know.
Din's
It was a
not
little
there.
forced.
Like
Yeah,
it's clearly an emergency happening.
it felt very like it was written that way, and then they shot it, and it didn't like adjust to. This doesn't quite work the way it should work. 'cause I had the same thought.
Bo-Katan right now feels like almost like a Vader-esque character, where it's almost like it says a lot. Like saying less would say a lot more with that character.
Yeah.
Like she stands at the window and she's like, "Now I've really got to get rid of this guy once and for all." And I'm just like, "Do you need that line? Like,
Nope.
Yeah.
just
Less is
staring out
more.
that window in a movie
Just like
is
stomp
all
out
she
there.
needs.
Yeah.
I almost
Maybe
feel like
they've done
her.
a lot of that already. That they kind of want to inject more lines, but
Yeah.
But they needed
feel
to
like her
say
looking-
it too, because it's quite a flip that Bo takes. She's sort of like, get out of here, all is lost. I don't want to deal with you. And then she sees it again, and then but like I guess it's Grogu that sort of melts her heart, and she's like, he needs you, and it's like, how do you say no to Grogu for anything?
Right.
That's all I can kind of deduce myself as far as why she flips and decides to like then risk her life to save Din Djarin several times, and saves him at least twice, his life twice. In like,
Well, I
you don't
think
think
part
that
of
it's Yeah, you go, Adam.
Oh, I'm going to give you credit, so I might be saying what you're about to say, but I think part of it goes to Grant, your thoughts about Bo-Katan is that, like, as much as she's reluctant, she's really looking for redemption, right?
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah,
a hard thing. Yeah, so I feel like it's easy for her to, like, do that. Because she doesn't
also-
think twice when she grabs the Darksaber. There's no moment of her being like, should I touch this, should I not? She just gets it and uses it, right? Like, yeah.
And I have to think she thinks it's just it would be another transgression against the creed for her if this devotee just dies out there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and she sent him there. Like, this would be another failing on her part in relation to the creed. You know what I mean? And so I think that, again, I think there's all these little hidden little nuggets that it's like she actually does, want to follow the creed and want to be redeemed under the creed, but she wants to do it her own way, and she wants to, and somehow things are aligning. Somehow things are aligning after meeting Din Djarin, which is really interesting to me. And I think the Force could be at work there or something. I think that's where the Jedi element, the Tar Vizsla sort of Jedi element, might be coming. Is what are Din and Bo's fate? Maybe they're
intertwined.
Is there
perhaps?
a romance angle there?
Yeah.
Is there more? Could more happen down the line? Like it's pretty interesting to me.
That's what I was going to bring up next. Is like the sort of TMZ core world news here. Who's shipping like Bowden Kantajarin? Like
Bowden Kantajarin.
yeah, who's shipping on that? Because I feel like she respects him. He helped her, and for all she's like, ugh, are you still a crazy cultist? I think she respects him as a person and what he's doing, and he's raising the kid, and he's like, he fought for her, and he got her a lot of, he did everything she ever asked of him, and then including like really sacrifice himself trying to get that warship from in season 2.
Yeah. Right.
So. Yeah, I wonder. And then after the thing about her dad, and she's just like, and now that like the things he's talking about are sort of coming to pass, and like Grant saying, like, there's a glimmer of hope in her life now. But I don't know.
And they're opening up to each other. They're talking about each other to each other. Like part of me is wondering, like, do we get a old trope of stuck in an elevator together, right? Where you get the two characters stuck together and they have to spend that, or we're gonna get the musical where they sing all their feelings. But I don't think we're gonna get that.
Yeah,
I almost made Ben spit his beer out.
Beer, that's seltzer.
Sorry.
It's Sunday afternoon.
Seltzer.
I wouldn't possibly. No, I am.
I wonder if she thinks Din is the Mandalore, but in actuality, it ends up being her. And that's sort of the narrative, and how the narrative sort of arcs in that path, basically, which is like she thinks he might be the next Mandalore, but when you really think about it, she saw the Mythosaur, he didn't.
Right.
Things are aligning in her favor.
Okay.
Really.
Okay. So there was I want to talk to you about this, because there was a scene, and I again, this is the benefit of doing this 4 days later, when we see Din Djarin on the bottom of the pool, and we're using her light. You can see the Mandalore next to him. The beast, the Mandalore next to him. No, this is the Mythosaur. The Mythosaur. Sorry.
I was like, what the?
My brain's melting. Sorry. The Mythosaur.
Oh, is it really down there at the bottom?
Yeah, you can't really see the eyes, but you can see the texture of its body.
Are you sure that's not just the same Mythosaur, and maybe its tail or something?
That's what I'm.
Massive.
Yeah, it wasn't like its face, but it could have been actually its snoot. We don't even know what a Mythosaur looks like really yet in canon, but you can see like off to the side, it like could have been mistaken for a rock formation, but it's pretty much the texture of its skin when we see its eyes open.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
So I'm just saying, I'm not trying to throw cold Beskar water on this, but I don't know. There's a couple things going on there.
I think Favreau and Filoni are doing a good job of creating all these red herrings as well.
Yeah,
I mean, we have like Bo sees the Mythosaur, but the Mythosaur's there when Din's arrived to do the create and to atone and things like that. And so it's like, is it his atonement that brought the Mythosaur there? Is it her intervention that in seeing the Mythosaur that is why it's there? And this is all just, and prophecy's messy, and prophecy is not real given your own perspective. Some of us, I'm not one who really believes in serendipity and prophecy and stuff like that. I'm kind of more of a realist. And so it's just messy, and it just could be there. That could be its lair. But you also have Boba Fett and Book of Boba Fett riding the Rancor. Eventually the Mandalore has to ride that thing. It's just all these different they're really trying to pull you in these different directions about who could actually reclaim the mantle of Mandalore, and who could actually fight the people.
And I have to throw a fourth one in there. I mean, Grogu's there. And if you were going to ask me who has, like, out of those 4 people who could tame a Mythosaur, like, I would say Grogu with the Force is your best bet. So
Grogu tames it, Din rides it.
Grogu tamed the Rancor too, at the end. So
that's very true. Part of me is wondering, like, they love like Star Wars loves their Master and Apprentice storylines.
Mm-hmm.
They love mirrors, right? And so we have the armor and Paz Vizsla, right? As this, I was gonna say dyad, but that means a whole other thing in Star Wars.
We'll call them a duo.
The duo. But the other thought is, like, I love this idea, Grant. If Bo-Katan is the Mandalore and is a reluctant one who's just like, yes, I understand that this is a title, I accept it, but I don't believe in all the jargon. And then you guys heard number one being Din Djarin, who's just like constantly going, no, but this is the thing, this is the way, this is the whole thing. It'd be such an interesting mirror to what's going on with the armor and Paz Vizsla. You'd almost be like doing that, and then you also have the whole thing where you have it's actually Bo-Katan and the armor battling it out, and then you actually have Paz Vizsla fighting fighting Din Djarin, right? Like it'd just be this fascinating kind of this dude, this guy. I keep wanting to say dyad, but anyway, you got it.
Yeah. Dichotomy.
No, that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of us are thinking Bo on this podcast. Do any of us think Mando is going to end up with the Darksaber at the end of this?
It's a possibility for sure,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Absolutely. I think Din Djarin.
Yeah.
So you think Din will have it at the end? You think
Yeah.
Din is the Mandalore?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what we're doing here. Because it would just be too.
I like Din as a drifter, and I'll staunchly stay in that camp for the entirety of watching the show. Is that he almost needs to end where he began? That's just where I live. But it's like
No, that makes a lot of sense. Because it's
Yeah.
like, what is he just going to sit on a throne and do whatever? But it's like, I mean, technically the Mandalore can do whatever he wants. But if they're looking for a leader, you're right. It's like, but it's just like Boba Fett would be corny. Bo-Katan already had her shot. I guess she could come back around and do it. Sabine Wren, is out there somewhere, but we know she's going to go on her own adventure with Ahsoka soon.
Yeah.
The Armorer is like too hardcore. I don't know.
Right.
I have to think the end of this show is everyone taking their helmets off and being like, we don't have to hide anymore.
Yeah.
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 Like that's the end of this show.
I think so.
I can't see another ending other than
My
that.
my only thing against that is Pedro Pascal is quite busy as an actor, and if you want to keep him on, I think the idea of having him keep his helmet on for as long as possible and just being able to do voiceovers.
Sadly, I think that might be the end, though. Honestly,
the very, very end. Yeah,
and then sadly.
Don't worry, they'll be.
I'd love to be wrong. Again, this podcast, all of us on this podcast, we'd love to be wrong because we love to be surprised and all that kind of stuff. But I could just see there's a lot of comments about the Mandalorians shouldn't be hiding in caves or hiding in tunnels and underground.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be above ground. They're supposed to be warriors in the light. I think something at the final, I think the end of this entire entry might be like, we don't have to hide anymore. We're now warriors again. Spirit's back. Yeah.
Yeah. And Din's also giving us a lot of like, this is what it means to be a Mandalorian. And, as he's teaching Grogu, and it's sort of like, you need to be a navigator. You need to know your way through the galaxy. You need to, those are all things that like, I mean, maybe the Mandalore doesn't sit on a throne and give commands. Maybe he does whatever he wants, but it's just like used as, as a person who brings people together. Maybe he's just a uniter. That could be his whole thing. And maybe the rest of it is him finding new Mandalorians and different sects and different scenarios. I mean, that could be a pretty fun adventure for him to go on as well. And every time he has to be like, yeah, I'm the Mandalore actually. So, and I'm telling you, this is going on. So if you ever wanted to be a part of what Mandalore is, fall in line or whatever that is. Or if Mandalorians, as they come into the light, face a new threat. It could be someone else. It could be the Chiss. It could be the remnants of the Empire. It could be the First Order. It could be all these sort of other people vying for power in the galaxy that are afraid of Mandalorians. I don't know. There's a lot of ways that can go there. That would be fun.
My final sort of deep exploration in this culture is like, I find that the armor in Paz Vizsla and the group of the Children of the Watch, like there's a violent nature to them. When they talk about Gideon in that, again, Chapter 5, Book of Boba Fett, when Mando brings up Gideon, Paz Vizsla's like, did you kill him? Like, death would be justice for someone who's killed so many of our people or whatever. And the armor is like, yeah, he should have died. Death should have been his price. And it was just like, they're pretty violent. And I think like the thing about Grogu that we've been seeing all along throughout all 3 seasons is he's fascinated by all life. And there's kind of the Plo Koon, like Clone Wars level, like the Jedi believe all life matters. You know what I mean? Like that idea. And I think there's the sacred warrior, I think, is someone who basically like respects life, but takes life. That is kind of what I think the Mandalorian creed is all about. Totally. But it's gone now. There's one faction that's very violent and has all these sort of like warring tendencies, and then you have Bo-Katan is just totally disaffected and disenfranchised by the whole thing, and And then you have Din, who's trying to find his way. And with a Jedi, he's going to be more respectful of life and sort of, I think, be more centered compared to the armor and Paz and that whole group, who are just cycles of violence. I can just see that just leading to cycles of violence and being just awful. That whole, like, you know, the zealotry, that religious zeal can oftentimes lead to just like horrific violence. And I think that's, and the exclusionary nature of the armor, and sort of like, she only looks out for Mandalorians. Like, everyone else doesn't matter to her, and like they should die, and like it's just like, or it just, if they're not wearing Beskar armor, they don't matter to her.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's at a certain point.
It's not a good way to lead.
No.
She's like, but she's like, you know, she's a blacksmith. You know, it's like, you know, she's a blacksmith.
I mean, she only respects the sick threads and armor.
Yeah, she's like, you have no swag. Your drip, I find disappointing. Yeah,
I love it. I love a
Black
super
is inadequate.
such a compelling character, and it's just a great way of making a character that I'm like, would I want to hang out with her? Well, maybe hang out with her, but would I want to be part of her cult? No, you know.
Yeah.
But
Do I want to hear her talk for hours on end? Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I want story time with the armor every night. Rad. We could probably go on and on. I know I could. I think at some point we're going to see some background on Grogu's sort of lost 25 years. There's like, you know, we know he was in the, you know, place for, you know, the Jedi Temple for 25 years, and then we don't really know what happened after that.
I think we are going to see that.
I think we are going to see that.
I agree.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
Which is, what does that mean? Like,
why is it important?
Who came through for Grogu?
Or did they come through? Or was he an experiment for 25 years? Some people think that online. Some people think he was with cloners for 25 years, like in a test tube.
That would be my theory, unfortunately, because I feel like when we get him, if you think about how, I feel like part of it is that he is so
traumatized.
Yeah, I had the perfect word for it. That's part of what's his coming back into the world is, because he's just been. It was horrible to think about. Like, that's the other thing. Like, do you want to tell that story of a child being held captive for 25 years? I don't know. Yeah. But like, I can't imagine he was just out there in the world doing his thing.
Right. What if he was one of the Jedi in the Amber? I mean, I guess those were all dead. But yeah, I mean, he could have been in a cloning facility somewhere getting worked on, which is actually a pretty good little segue.
Oh, look at that.
Look what you did.
See what I did there?
Masterful.
Oh, let's just go and do it, guys, because we are also we skipped the Bad Batch last week because, oh my goodness.
Mandalorian premiere.
Right. But this week we are going to talk about the Bad Batch. So let's do it now.
If you're having clone problems, I feel bad for you, son. I have 99 problems, but the Bad Batch ain't one. Hit me!
All right. Now we're going to do our Bad Batch segment. We didn't prep any big stories or some summaries for these two, but they happened and they were fantastic. So I didn't watch last week's episode, Metamorphosis, until after we did the pod, just because I was like, I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to think about anything. And then I lost my mind. I was just texting these guys. I was like,
the text was hilarious. Yeah.
I was like, we were all deceived.
Yeah. Don't sleep on the Bad Batch. Yeah.
They were fantastic. And we immediately go into, we have a new, into cloning, which I know Grant is just like been all over. And Adam too, you've both been stoked on the cloning, bringing that back. Yeah. And then we have a new nemesis, a new antagonist named Dr. Hemlock. Who's doing
a little on the nose.
Yeah, right. For those who don't know, hemlock is a poison, and a tree. That is poisonous. So, I mean, but, you know, in classic Star Wars way.
It's a great Star Wars name.
But, I mean, and we know he's got some, and he's tying back in more the remnants of Kaminoans to help work on this place. Right. And we actually see one of the ones that I thought she was dead, but I guess she was pulled out at the end of last season. Nala Se, I believe. Yeah, Nala Se. To work on some project. And I don't know where your guys' head went, but mine immediately went, I'm like, well, here we go. We're going to start talking about cloning for the Emperor right now.
Yeah, right? Me too. That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Also, just Omega being some sort of puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Finally, I've been like, there's so much setup
Yeah.
that she has some special purpose, right? Or she was made with some special purpose, and there's hints of that. We're not there yet. We don't know what that is. We don't know is she the codex for all their genetic research? Is like, in a level like does her blood contain a lot of the I guess the DNA that essentially they need for future cloning and all that kind of stuff, or is she like is she have special abilities of some kind? Like there's a lot to think about.
But I feel like we're starting to see where the show's heading, right? Because we get both those things. We now have that puzzle piece of like Omega is needed by the cloners, by the Empire. So now they have a target on their back, whether they know it or don't.
Little overlap with Mando.
Yeah, a little bit. And we also know that they seem to have agreed that they're done with Sid, right? That seems to have finally come out a little bit in the wash.
Yeah, we finally got it. So when, the other episode ended, when they were stuck on that scrap planet for 2 episodes, Sid blew them off. And so they are still chafing from that experience. And we're like, they used it ultimately to negotiate a better percentage of the cut of the next job. But they're, like you guys said, they're kind of out on Sid.
Yeah, not a great situation when every job is a suicide mission.
No,
Yeah.
right? And I think they had talked about it because I think did Tech say, I think like leaving her might not be that easy because she knows about us. And they're like, and that's when he was justified like maybe one more job to kind of smooth things over, right? And I mean, plus you have the Empire going after them, and once Sid knows that the Empire is looking for them and will pay a hefty fine, she will flip on them.
You think?
Oh, immediately.
Okay.
Immediately for like $10, she's gonna flip on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I
10
mean, when we were
That's
introduced to Sid, she seemed like she was no friend of the Empire's. And
No, but she's a friend of credits.
she is, yeah, and she might be falling on hard times. I feel like there's a narrative to Sid that we haven't seen. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago too, but there's something going on with Sid that I think is important that they haven't told us yet. But either she's like running out of credits or running out of life or running out of something.
You don't think they want to create disease with Sid right now, and then later on she comes through for maybe Omega after Bad Batch are wounded, or you take a prisoner and Omega has to call one person in the galaxy or something like that?
Yeah, they may
You know what I
they may pull Lando with her.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't see any redeemable qualities to Sid whatsoever.
Really? I don't know. I think she takes the time to think of these fun nicknames for the guys.
Are
like
they fun or are they condescending?
Yeah, are they? I love when someone calls-
Goggles?
calls me goggles. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's Hunter's
Bandana?
Like bandana or
Yeah,
something?
bandana.
It's like so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe she doesn't want to learn their names. Never mind. I retract that point.
Yeah, she doesn't want to learn their names because they are just fodder
Yeah,
for
because
her
all
capitalist
clones look
machine.
alike. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I believe in Sid. I'm Team Sid over here, guys. I think
All
she-
right.
Okay. Bless you.
can always
Force
trust Grant.
bless you,
Yes.
Grant, for taking that.
I like that you look
angle.
for the good of everyone.
Yeah.
They're definitely not hissing reptiles in private. They're totally trustworthy.
Totally trustworthy. We just see them with pirates and bounty hunters all the time.
Yeah.
Or hunting, Wookiees or doing terrible stuff. I like that they don't shy away from that, though. They're like, no, the Clatoonians, they're kind of terrible. They're like, most, what are those things called? All right, never mind. I'm forgetting about it. I'm having trouble pulling the ones with the horns on their face.
Weequay?
No, Weequay. Yeah, poor Weequay. They get lumped in them too.
They're always pirates. It's sad.
Nikto. Sorry, Nikto.
Nikto. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Nikto pirates and that sort of stuff too. Henchmen.
Anyways, I believe in Sid.
Okay.
I hope she's going to come through.
All right.
Okay.
But,
So they go to find a starship, and then we get like this awesome alien sort of homage, hunting some sort of beast in the starship. And sure enough, it turns out to be a baby Zillo beast.
Yeah. I love it.
the one we saw during the Clone Wars?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it can't be the
They
same
say
one,
that
right?
explicitly in the show.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, they do. The one that attacked.
All
Of
right.
course, not during the end of the Clone Wars. I'm like, yeah. Thanks for. Why didn't you cite an episode number for us? But it just,
yeah. Right.
I love that they were able to do an Aliens plus a King Kong homage at the same time, and I'm like, or Godzilla. I'm like, that's great. Like,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, the Zillo Beast was a fun episode. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But yeah, it was like a Godzilla / King Kong episode in the Clone Wars. And these creatures just eat energy and just get exponentially bigger the more they eat. And so when one attacks a city and there's a lot of energy, you can see where it goes. And I forget, I think, was Anakin the one that killed the last Zilla Beast? I think it was. Like, they had to have Jedi in there to... I forget actually what happened to that.
I was trying to remember too.
Or Obi-Wan,
It's a
like...
50-50 shot of Anakin or Obi-Wan. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't even think they killed it. I think they... Oh, no, they did kill it, and I think they were just like, it was a shame. Like, they were like, you should...
But didn't Palpatine want it alive or something? I forget.
Yeah.
Wasn't Palpatine heavy in those episodes?
Yeah,
It was-
and so that's where I hope they're going with this, is that Palpatine thinks he wants to gene splice, like, the Zillo Beast into his clone so that, he just gets more powerful.
It's that dark science. He's got to use the Force lightning on the clone babies to grow them stronger.
Oh,
It's like
right.
they got,
Right.
and they need the genes from the Zillo Beast to withstand this. Just joking. I don't know.
No, I'm on board 100%. I'm like, yes, everything you're saying is exactly right. That's what
You're
I
like,
think.
this is how my head works. Yes,
Yes.
this is how my brain.
Well, no, it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's a project by Palpatine's cloners, and they need this thing, and the time's auspicious, and yeah, I think he's part of the Zillo Beast is part of the next, Palpatine 2.0, whatever Palpatine thinks that is. So so that was kind of interesting. They ended up capturing it again.
Or it's like the great line from Omega is like, they're not trying to kill it.
Yeah.
They're going to take it.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, yeah, that ship has some giant claw arm.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
Yes. And then it is revealed to Lama Su's coming by, and then he's like, yeah, we need this thing. And they're like, you need Omega. Yeah.
I think we get the planet where the major cloning operation is happening. I think it's name checked in this episode.
Mount Tantus?
Or the actual planet as well. Does that get a name? I think it does. We'll look back.
Wait,
it
if it's
definitely does.
If it's Tantus, that's
Tantus is the planet.
No, that's true. That's pretty.
It's Mount Tantus is where the
So they don't name the
facility
planet.
is.
I thought they named the planet.
but
But let me look and see if
That's a pretty important planet. When
that's
it
a
comes to
very.
Oh, it's on the
that's
planet Wayland.
Wayland
Wayland
Yutani.
Yutani. The alien references just keep coming.
Yeah.
Is it really?
That's amazing.
I don't know if I like that.
I love it. I'm on board.
You're on board with references in general. All
Yeah,
right.
it's references. That's all. I'm
So like
pro,
everyone else, Adam. Okay.
You're pro Sid. I'm pro references.
I'm into references, by the way, guys.
Anything for a chuckle. Anything for a guffaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I love that. That's a cool planet, like a forested jungle world of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. Yeah, Wayland. So you can see that one. And so that's where it goes. And then, so that's that episode. Anything else you want to tie up on that episode, gentlemen? Because I want to move on.
I think it was a creature feature, simple.
Yeah.
Sort of creature.
Yeah.
feature.
But
So-
I did think all of the cloning stuff was exciting, and obviously yeah, you're right. It was a creature feature, but it's cool to see our guys do their things.
I mean, I will just say that Mount Tantus again is like all about cloning in the old EU and with Thrawn and all that stuff. Yeah, that's where the crazy Jedi clones are
That's where
made.
Luke was made.
I don't know about Luke, but
Sabaoth.
yeah,
made there?
yeah, I
okay.
can't think of his name, but yeah. So it's pretty
cool.
huge. And by the way, just as I just want to mention, it was on Wayland all the way back then.
Oh, really?
Oh
That-
wow.
yeah, so that's fascinating. So they don't know when they were writing this, they decided like, Wayland makes me think of Wayland Yutani. Let's just throw in an alien reference. It's such a weird working their way backwards into a
I know.
alien reference.
That would not shock me at all.
Yeah.
That is pretty funny. All right, so very cool. So they're going to be chasing down this old EU storyline and cloning, which we did suspect would be happening.
Yes. That we're probably going to see him in live action at some point because you got to have Thrawn. If you have a Tantus and you have Thrawn,
Yeah,
have to put them together at some point.
absolutely.
Would he come into Bad Batch though, or he's gone at that point?
Who knows?
Oh no, he's around.
He's around, actually.
Oh, he's around.
Oh, he is right. We could get a Thrawn pop up in
Oh wow.
Bad Batch.
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
even think about that.
A pre-Rebels
There's gonna be
Thrawn
like
pop-up.
there's gonna be like synergy like we've never seen before. When they roll out Thrawn, it's like the
Yeah.
airwaves are gonna turn blue. Like it's gonna be the font will be blue. Like he'll be in every show. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be that rollout is gonna be insane.
I know, that is really... I mean, it could be very confusing because they're like, well, I saw Thrawn in Bad Batch, but now I'm seeing Thrawn in the outer regions. And what's he doing? Because, like, I have trouble keeping track of it. And I don't even, like, I've already partitioned Legends Thrawn from Canon Thrawn. but still, because we got 3 book trilogies about Thrawn out of order, so it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
you know, it was kind of hard. And then Rebels Thrawn, and then we're gonna see Ahsoka Thrawn, and now we'll have Bad Batch Thrawn.
Weirdly, we've had more Thrawn in new EU than old EU,
Yes,
which is
Insane.
wild.
That's crazy.
No
When you
complaints.
think
Yeah.
old EU is that's kind of like the scaffolding
Yeah.
for old EU.
'Cause he's
And
only
then
in
now
3
it's-
books in the old EU.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
But those are like the pivotal, like kind of like
Oh, yeah.
trilogy esque
Yeah.
sort of story.
I mean, it was the end of the Dark Era in Star Wars. It was
Yeah.
like the first new thing going on.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, and very cool that they did that. So, all right, let's turn the page to the next episode, The Outpost, which is episode 12 of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12th episode. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm not going to go through the whole summary here because it's massive. But we get another Crosshair episode.
Yeah, which I love. I love when we get these. They're so
Yes.
good. I understand why they sprinkle them out because, man, are they depressing watches, but really
Oh,
great.
but I love them.
Me too.
Because aren't you just like cheering a little bit for Crosshair to be like, Crosshair, bro, come on, man. Come on back.
Yeah.
Come on. You know what's going on here, guy.
Yeah,
You are.
definitely.
I just like the sharp shift in tone that his
Yes.
episodes
Yes.
have.
Yes.
It's just like, how about the bleak world of a cog in the Imperial machine? Like,
Yeah.
how does that feel for you as the audience? And you're like, nice. It's super refreshing compared to like the gallant adventures of the Bad Batch. It's like let's really get into like the psyche of these soldiers who are just fodder. It's awful.
They
It's
use
dark.
different animation. Like it literally is darker. Like it's shot, or I guess animated bleaker. The music's bleaker. Everything's bleaker about it, and I just love it. And I feel like it's just every time you watch Crosshair's world, you're just like, yeah, buddy, that's the choice you made. Like they keep reminding us and him of like the quote unquote, I'm just saying, hell he put himself into, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what does it, Ben. That's why you're rooting for him, because you just it's great to watch him just be like, come on, wake up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I mean, at the end of this episode, we kind of get a new storyline for him, which is kind of like it's evolving in a major way. But
Yeah.
I don't know if he can return to the Bad Batch. I think that's something as an audience member, I'm kind of struggling with.
I don't think so, but I
know
think
if
we
he
get
can.
I don't think so, but I think the Sid thing that you're talking about might be with Crosshair. I think Crosshair is
Ooh, I like
sacrificed
that.
at some point to save Omega.
Ooh, I really like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That-
Okay. That's probably how
Given
it's
that
going to go.
given that he's in a location that she could also be brought to, and there could be a crisscross there.
Oh, that's a good call. There might be an Omega Crosshair episode.
Yeah,
Which would be fascinating.
that
Him
facility, right?
helping to break her
He
out.
doesn't just go to
Yeah.
that facility, and then that facility is a major
Yeah.
part of this other storyline that they're now, sort of crossing.
Oh, right. Because,
Absolutely.
yeah. So when this ends, Crosshair wakes up in a facility, but it looks like Mount Tantus because we see that same tech there, that same like clone tech woman with the goggles.
Yeah, Hemlock, right?
Well, not. Oh, she's like, you will meet Hemlock. You'll meet the guy. She doesn't name
Yeah,
drop
is it
him, but she's one of
Carr?
his.
Is it
minions.
is it a new Sam Witwer character? The guy who's running the entire cloning operation. Is that Sam Witwer? I'm just wondering.
I didn't see his name.
I didn't.
Oh, wait,
I didn't.
You seen
read
the person who voices Hemlock?
Is Dr. Hemlock the guy who comes in?
Yeah, he's the
Who's
guy.
like-
he's the guy.
Okay.
in the last episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Carr. Emery Carr is the name
Emery,
of that tech.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, she's in the episode 11 as well, working on the thing. So yeah, so he is. You're right. He's there with this thing in this cloning facility, and he's probably in a bad way. She's like, if you play your cards right, they might let you live. Not really sounding like he's in a great place.
No.
But I mean, I just have to think that if he was able to go back to the Bad Batch, I think they would welcome him back with open arms, despite all of the problems they went through. They're sort of like, listen, it's war, bad things happen, but you're our brother in arms. Like,
Yeah.
And the way they talk about him is just like, that's a choice he made, and
Yeah. They're family. And that's the family does that, right? And so I could see that.
And Mayday did a number on him. I think Mayday really
Yeah.
got in his head.
Yeah.
Like Mayday was just like, have we seen Mayday before in Clone Wars or anything like that?
So glad you asked.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I looked because I know I've heard his name. I've
I've heard the name. I thought I've heard.
I think he was like, I want to say there was a Mayday that was a fighter pilot person in one of the early Clone Wars squadrons that served under Ahsoka and Anakin. But I thought he.
Well, this is a
died.
commander, right?
Yeah, but this would have been much later, right? I mean, this would be 20 years after that.
Okay.
So it makes sense how old he is. But I looked under the Wikipedia and it doesn't say anything.
Doesn't say much. All right.
It says nothing. It just says he was in the show. That's it. Barton.
Okay,
Barton
great.
4 is the name of that ice planet they were on, and that was.
I thought that was
going
Wolf for a second.
Yeah.
Like just given all the gray, like
right.
Yeah.
sort of markings on the armor. I was like, oh, is this Wolf? Oh my goodness. Yeah. And like they were in the cold, and I was like, what a fitting end for Wolf is like in the cold. But did his story end in Clone Wars? Do we know where Wolf is?
No, Wolf didn't. Wolf ended up in Rebels. He was
Okay,
the one
Wolf ended up in
he
Rebels.
fishing
Right.
for those dune creatures.
That's right.
With Rex.
Yeah, on that big
Yeah.
sand crawler type thing.
Yeah, much weirder than he used to be.
The ATTE sort of retrofitted with the weird crane and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was cool.
Yeah, this episode was just amazing. Like it reminded me of that episode of Mando season 2, where with the when Mando and Migs sort of sneak into that facility in that jungle planet, and then they just kill that officer just because that officer is just outright evil, and Migs wants revenge. Like it just felt like the ending felt a lot like that. Where it's just like, this person, it does not deserve life.
Yeah.
Like at
Yeah.
the end, I was like, this person just no more of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just ends him. I've actually been getting a really distinct Andor. Like, yes, I agree with you 100% what you just said. I also think I get a big Andor vibe off of all of this. I feel like this is when they were like looking at the like previews. They got the pre-screens of Andor and are like, oh boy. And even and even down to the score, Kevin Kiner. I mean, it sounds a lot like Sterling soundtrack for Andor, and it's just so moody and it's so slow in a beautiful way. Just like they took the time for Mayday to like disarm the landmine, and it was just
I
like
loved that part.
Yeah.
I loved that part of the episode.
Yeah.
Remind me not to. Firstly, before they go, that is the best sequence in that episode. Before they go into the tunnel or whatever, and then Crosshair says something about like, I don't want to carry any dead weight, or whatever. You're just gonna be dead weight. And then he's like, remind me not to die on your watch.
Yeah.
And then they get into the tunnel, and who steps on a landmine? It's Crosshair.
Yeah.
And this guy, bends over backwards to
save his life.
Fix the mine, defuse the mine, and then he saves his life. And then that to me was just like, you need to look at your moral compass, Crosshair, and you need to realign, because this guy just went out of his way to save you, and this is what good soldiers do, is they're also there for each other. And I think you've lost that, and now he's back.
I think there's something about Mayday being like, yes, he's super cynical, but he speaks plain, and he's honest with Crosshair, and that does something to Crosshair where he's like, you know what, this guy's right. About like a lot of things, and I mean, he clearly affected Crosshair in that Crosshair carried his like half dead body across the frozen plains of Barton 4. And then ultimately it was like, I don't care what happens next. I'm not dealing with this clown anymore. That's Captain Bragg, by the way. I don't know if you got his name.
What was it? Captain Chad?
Captain Bragg.
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 Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of meanings on that in that name right there.
Right.
Yeah, when he's like, I want medical. Can I get medical attention for this guy? And then Captain Bragg's like, no, that'd be a waste of our resources. That was really, cold. I think, that was the twisting of the knife right there. I was like, oh my god, this is how much they don't care about you.
It's these shows are, again, we talked about this. This is not a children's cartoon, right? Like these shows are not.
That's no. Yes.
But when you have like the main Bad Batch, you can kind of get away with like, there's romping adventures, like you're saying, and fun. But man, when you get these Crosshairs episodes, I'm like, this is like bleak. This is bleaker than anything we've seen on Mandalorian. Like this is like I let my kid watch like The Mandalorian well before she'd be watching like the Crosshair episodes of Bad Batch.
I love it. I love them so much.
Great.
It makes, now
Yeah.
we're getting Mandalorian and Bad Batch in the same week. It's like we do get a full hour and change of Star Wars every week now, and it's pretty nice.
Yes, we do.
It's good to be a Star Wars fan right now, for reals.
Really, really great.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating just how many people are talking about Mandalorian culture when I was like in high school being like,
Yeah.
is this cool to talk about? Like, no one would, I don't think anyone would entertain any sort of Mandalorian conversation, say 25 years ago, but like now everyone's talking about it.
Yeah,
it's
great.
crazy.
Great
It's
girl
just, like,
palette.
everyone's diving into it. Everyone's trying to analyze it. I'm like, really? Because like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just amazing. It's
It's
amazing
weird.
to see.
The weird world.
Weird world. All right, awesome. We've only got 2 more days until we get a new episode of both of these series. That's going
right.
to be fantastic. I have no idea. I'm not even going to read the next episode title because I don't want to know Mandalorian.
Nope.
I want to be wrong. I want to be surprised, and they're doing a great job of that so far.
Yeah.
So, thanks very much for listening and watching. If you're watching, Jason's usually probably out there somewhere, Mr. Rosario, and yeah, it's great to keep doing this for y'all. My favorite part of the week. So take care, y'all. You're fantastic, and enjoy Mandalorian Bad Batch on Wednesday, and we'll talk to you shortly after that. And as always, may the Force be with you.
This is Grex Kondak signing off. For the latest breaking news, follow @CoreWorldNews on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you and good night.
Remember, the Force will be with you.